The Children's Mission helped those who need it the most. This is made possible only through our donors and sponsors. This film is for you, showing not only that the help gets there, but how it gets there. The almost 100 million people in the Philippines are dominated by a small but wealthy elite. Meanwhile, many live in unimaginable misery here in the origin country of the Children's Mission. The contrast between rich and poor is numbing. This is somebody's home. In the outskirts of the capital, the shanty slum dwells at the foot of a few small mountains made up of millions of tons of garbage coming from the giant city.
Vid soptippsberget i Manila bor och livnär sig hundratusentals människor av andras avfall. På inget annat ställe på jorden som jag vet är nöden större än här. Och det var här jag också mötte nöden för första gången i mitt liv. När en flicka la ett döende barn i mina händer och sa "Mr. Help me". Tyvärr kom vi för sent den gången. Men jag beslöt mig för att kämpa hårdare för att det inte ska hända igen.
The water where these men are rinsing plastic waste to sell is saturated with chemicals and contamination. As always, the children are worst off, struck by deformities, disease, and malnutrition. But literally in the midst of misery, there's hope and help provided by the Children's Mission at the Mulford Center. In our preschool, the slum kids are provided with a school uniform and a path into the educational system, all thanks to our sponsors. One of the families with kids at our school are the Acebushes. The father is ever so grateful that his daughter, Alessandra, through the mission has a chance at another life than the one in the shade of the garbage mountain.
Makapagtapos yung anak ko sa pag-aaral para may magandang kinabukasan naman siya para sa paglaki niya. Hindi na siya mahirapan katulad ko na nahihirapan pa sa paghahanap buhay para lang meron kaming kain lang sa araw-araw para sa gastusin sa bahay.
Vid sidan om förskolan så har vi också en yrkesskola här på Mulford Center. Och här undervisar vi i ämnen från svetsning till kosmetologi. Och det viktiga som vi ser, det är att man får arbete efter utbildningen. Och det får 40% utav eleverna.
Para po sa akin kasi galing lang din ako sa mahirap na pamilya, tas parents ko po pareho walang trabaho. Kaya malaking tulong po sa akin to para makatulong na rin sa kanila kahit sa konting lang po paraan.
In the slum on the mountainside, the noise from the trucks can't hide the heartbreaking weeping of a little girl. She's not seriously ill, but suffering severe pain from scabies. Public health care most often is too expensive for the poor, not only the fees, but also the transport to get there. Instead, the mission comes to the poor with our mobile clinic, and soon the girl with scabies will get the help she needs. People come from all directions and patiently await professional care for children as well as mothers. The poor have severe problems with their dental health, and so our mobile dental clinic is much appreciated. A lot of the time we need to do extractions, but the patients willingly endure a few moments of pain in exchange for months of toothaches. Through outreaches like Operation Love, we can both spread a little joy amongst the children and also create new contacts. Maybe some of these kids in 10 or 12 years will have learned a professional skill at the Mulford Center and so given themselves a chance at a better life. But many kids have no parents or come from an environment of social vulnerability. Out of a vision to help these abandoned ones grows the Children's Village at the Hills of Grace, one of the largest undertakings ever by the Children's Mission. The Swedish company Biltema is the main sponsor for no less than 10 new homes for abused or abandoned children. Here we're building a safe and loving environment, and we provide new families with a new mother and new siblings. The work is done in cooperation with social authorities, and we plan to take complete responsibility for about 100 children, all the way from preschool until they come of age. The Children's Mission has a long-time outreach obligation against malnutrition, with the goal to help affected children where they live. But the severest cases, like 2-year-old Jobelin, are taken to the Hills of Grace to be nursed by our skilled staff and temporarily integrated into the Children's Village. Here at Hills of Grace you also find our central administration, coordinating our work as efficiently as possible so every cent of the money from our donors is spent wisely. This way, the Children's Mission Philippines is able to reach in excess of 10,000 people every year with healthcare, schooling, and outreach programs.
En annan verksamhet som Barnmissionen har, som kanske ligger något utanför själva arbetet med barn, är ett mikrokreditprogram. Där hjälper vi familjer med lån så att man kan starta små verksamheter, som till exempel den som jag har bakom mig, som är en närbutik. Och detta gör vi för att familjen ska få det bättre och därmed att barnen får det bättre.
Nakakatulong po ako sa asawa ko sa paghahanap buhay, sa pang-araw-araw naming pangangailangan, pag wala pa siyang sweldo kaya nadidelayed, nakakatulong po sa amin.
The road out of poverty goes through education. That is why we run several preschools, a professional skills training, and our own elementary school. Welcome to Shining Light. The school uniforms provide extra dignity for the students that to no small extent come from the slums, shanties without electricity, plumbing, or running water. But at the school, the kids there dream of a different future.
My favorite subject is arts because I want to become a fashion designer to design wonderful dresses.
It's a challenge to get children from poor circumstances to stay in school. Many of them must work from an early age to help support the family. But thanks to a special sponsorship program, with the support of Icelandic ABC Children's Aid, we at the Mission can support many of these kids through school, with the grants all the way up to college. One of the children that lifted herself out of poverty and went all the way to an academic degree is Clemencia. Now, she's given back to the mission by working as a teacher at Shining Light.
The mission gave us allowance and also our books and everything. Every needs that we have to buy or we have to have.
How long did you study?
For college, I took 4 years of bachelor in elementary education.
Now because of this, the support, you are a teacher. How does that feel?
It feels so great and I feel so grateful for the mission for for just giving me an opportunity to pursue my dreams.
Their powerful voices fill up the church as naturally as the sun rises on the Zambian plateau. Unlike many other African countries, Zambia has lived in peace for more than 50 years. But despite rich natural resources in the copper belt and a strong economic growth, people live in poverty, driven by corruption and widespread HIV and AIDS. Nearly every second child younger than 5 years suffers from chronic malnutrition. and an average Zambian only lives to be 40 years old. Here, the Children's Mission collaborates since 2007 with the Apostolic Church of Pentecost, which pursues a vast social work on the Zambian countryside. Together, we have distributed both goats and maize seedlings in the village of Kacha in the Mpangwa district.
Here we have two families. The first family, the husband died, and she was diagnosed HIV positive. So as a mission, we came in with the seedlings so that they can have a sustainable food basket for themselves, because that's a very big problem.
Amataba bali mpere kutampa mu 2009 muli bampera nalima nafumya 15 bags kaidi mulando wakawatiri mtu fertilizer tapaleva na baisa bampera futi nalima nafumya 20 bags kufikana lero fino imbushishena elo batupere mu June elo shaishi nibo nabona tiwa kuchinja kwa bapo na kulia na ikere ili mpindi.
White maize corn is the foundation of any Zambian household, so the seedlings we distribute become an effective help towards self-help. But the big hit in our humanitarian work is the goat distribution program. It causes a massive amount of gratitude towards our sponsors in Scandinavia and great joy over the mission visits.
So you will have a goat. You will have a goat. And the goat's name, one is Hannah. Can you say Hannah? Hannah and Frida. Okay? God bless you. Take good care of the goats. Yeah. Please, here is your goat. Hello. Bye, pray.
Cooperating with local congregations, it's possible for us to identify those families where a goat would make the biggest difference. Goats give nourishing milk and eventually meat, but they also multiply. Families can sell the offspring and make money for children's schooling. One of them, an orphan called Brian.
Bantu imbushi desambira fe wino shenga fako kulipira ku skulu pia tashire shupa nefya kufwala fya finenga nshkwete kushtishapo banshitira kwe fya kufwala fyashi.
According to the UN, almost 1 out of every 5 Zambians between ages 15 and 49 carry HIV or AIDS, and close to 800,000 kids have been orphaned because of it. In Kafuja village, not far from Brian's school, we meet some other orphans who received goats from the mission.
Imbushi shiratwafuirishako tinatambira kuri uli omulumendo uli mu grade 10 ilwe mpia shako skulu shabulire pali ko imbushi shibiri shali po shikulu shawo masho shafire ba first shali sabulire mpia shako skulu so twalishisha shitashine imbushi twamubikira pa mpia shako skulu aya ko skulu
Dekara fe wino kwa bro kutura but fya fine fya batunga bene atiposa kwa manori tatukweteka ku skulu batufaira ko barusha atupira twambona kwa ku skulu.
Nu befinner vi oss i Musangashi i Mpongwe-distriktet. Det som vi känner mest som kopparbältet. Här lider oerhört många människor av HIV. Här är det många föräldralösa barn. Men någon glädjestund i livet, det är när det är fotboll på söndagen. Därför har Barnmissionen sitt eget fotbollslag, Tabernakel.
In 2012, Zambia became African champions. That same year, Tabernacle FC won the district series. And there is good reason for the mission to sponsor the club with its local adolescents.
First of all, we keep our youth busy instead of indulging themselves in other abuse things. Second thing, this is an opportunity for us as a church to evangelize. As they are playing football, we have ample time to go through the members and also to talk with them about the love. The third thing is that we are trying to tap the talents from the youngsters so that we can create the future. Some of them, they don't know the potential they have in playing football. By this, we're exposing them to big clubs so that they can be good players who play in the national team. That's our dream.
Our work in Musangashi is based within Pastor Jesse's local church, a building made for multifunctionality. Aside from services, it's also possible to host village meetings here, a way to contribute to the local social life. And there's also room for practical activities, like sewing. As a complement to the goat distribution, we also run a conservation farming program. The purpose is to teach new farming methods like composting, alternating crops, and to substitute expensive fertilizer with natural dung. This is not just a way to act friendly to the environment. The program has already given our participants larger crops.
Maize corn is our staple food. So each family is obliged to have some bags. So for example, when a family has learned how to do conservation farming, they will have enough food to eat, which means instead of producing less than 15 bags, they will be able to do 50 bags in a lima, and that will be a food security for them to the next harvest.
Nu befinner vi oss i Kina Mumpanga. Det var här barnmissionen byggde sin första multifunktionella byggnad. Det är otroligt viktigt för barnen att de får gå i skolan, för det är vägen ut ur fattigdom. Det är också viktigt för en fattig by ute i buschen att kunna ha en samlingslokal, och det är viktigt att kyrkan har någonstans att vara. Därför har vi beslutat oss för att bygga dessa multifunktionella byggnader. Och byn själva får ett ägandeskap, för det är de som har byggt byggnaden. Vi har bara stått för byggmästare och material. Nu ska ni få en speciell hälsning från barnen till våra finska givare som har gjort skolan möjlig. Sponsors!
Siso, siso, siso!
Mashuine ngalavira nebo yakutota koso ati ubu wafuirisho bali kutupera
oningate kube batiresa abapali bali konkanya profefu bali ekita.
Through merging with Swedish NAB partner, the Children's Mission is now working also in Nairobi, the capital of Kenya. One leg of this venture is I Choose Life, a program to stop the spreading of HIV and AIDS through lectures and teaching in schools.
There are some stereotypes that may be harmful and that they may propagate the spread of HIV and AIDS.
The other leg is a project to train and support local entrepreneurs, whether they work with products or services. One young businesswoman who's been able to create a better life for herself and her family through this help is Aggie, running a pastry shop and a catering service.
Hi, Aggie.
Oh, hi, Debbie.
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Long time no see.
I'd love some fun.
Well, I learned how to market my business more effectively, how to manage my records well, how, they helped me see how much more potential I had inside of me. And for me, it was a godsend.
Att utbildning är vägen ut ur fattigdom, det har vi hört mycket och det vet vi är sanning. Men vad hjälper en utbildning om den inte leder till ett jobb? När det inte finns jobb i fattiga länder så kan jag ha vilken utbildning jag vill. Därför måste man jobba med människors egen kunskap, deras entreprenörskap, så de kan göra ett jobb till sig själv, men även till de andra människorna i sin omgivning och sin kommun. Visst ger det en hopp när man möter en flicka som Aggie.
In 5 years, Nairobi and Kenya in general will be thinking cake, think Aggie. My name and cake will be synonymous. Yes.
Right on top of the Bay of Bengal, in a land no larger than England, live more than 150 million people. Bangladesh is one of the poorest countries in Asia and it's a frightening experience to see the misery and exposedness amongst the poor in the slum of Dhaka, the nation's capital. They live in shacks of cardboard and sheet metal, literally 1 meter away from the railway tracks. The people that are born, live and die here scan the ground for scraps to feed their children. Cooking as well as bodily functions take place right between the tracks. Those who live here often came from the countryside, bearing in vain a dream of a better life in the big city. So instead, we travel north towards the Indian border to see for ourselves a place in the countryside where hope actually springs anew.
Som missionschef för Skandinaviska barnmissionen så får jag vara med om fantastiska resor och besöka våra missionsländer i hela världen. Men sällan har jag väl längtat så mycket som just idag att få komma till ett ställe. Idag har jag kommit till Birgoch i Bangladesh, till barnmissionens nya center tillsammans med stiftaren och grundaren Albert Miranda. Och nu ska vi få möta dem vi har längtat efter hela tiden. Barnen på Home of Peace. Ja. En helt fantastisk upplevelse mina vänner och bli välkomna på detta underbara vis av barnen och deras sånger. Tänk hur mycket det betyder det vi gör i barnmissionen för dessa barnen och märk deras glädje och vilket välkomnande.
Home of Peace is a Christian boarding school for more than 250 children. Apart from education, the school also provides them with food, lodging, and lots of love. Many of these kids come from poor and poorly educated tribes people. The literacy rate is very poor, not even 50% for the women. But here at Home of Peace, the children learn to read, write, do math, and other basic skills that may well be the difference between a good and a bad life.
The vision of Home of Peace is to provide education to the orphan and also single parent children and marginalized poor children, that they can have a new life and can have fulfill life, and they can be a leader in the future and can be a generation corruption free generation I can build. That's the vision I have.
Pastor Albert represents our mission partner, Agape Social Concern, which is part of the Free Christian Churches of Bangladesh. In a land where 90% of the people are Muslim, we focus on education and community development primarily for the Christian minority, which is less than 0.3% of the population. Part of this is the skills training program at Home of Peace in such different areas as IT, sewing, and farming and fishing with a view to sustainability. The fact that the students at Home of Peace actually live, eat and spend their spare time at the school makes all the difference for their efforts to study, especially for those with a very poor background.
আমি হোস্টেলে যে অনেক উপকার পেয়েছি আর সুন্দর লেখাপড়া করতে পেরেছি এই জন্য ধন্যবাদ জানাই আপনাদেরকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ জানাই হোস্টেলে যদি না যেতাম তাহলে লেখাপড়া করতে পারতাম না হোস্টেলে গেছি তার জন্য অনেক লেখাপড়া করতে পারতেছি ঈশ্বরকে ধন্যবাদ দেই কারণ ওখানে আমাদের হোম অফিস হোস্টেলে লেখাপড়ার সুযোগ দিয়েছেন আপনাদেরও ধন্যবাদ দেই আমি বাড়িতে থাকলে এরকম সুযোগ পাইতাম না এখন ওখানে লেখাপড়া করে আমার আশা যে আমি এখন আমাকে যারা বড়রা শিক্ষা দিচ্ছে আমি বড় হয়ে আমাদের এলাকা ছোটদের শিক্ষা দেব
Home of Peace is growing rapidly, facilitating new dorms for the students, local farming, livestock, and even biogas production on the premises. The plan is to become self-sustained energy-wise, as well as being able to sell surplus energy. But in the local countryside, the basic economy of the villages often has been the same for generations, and the excess from the animals in the fields doesn't always suffice. That's why the Children's Mission initiated a goat distribution program. Already the first year, we handed out 2,000 goats to poor families. The methodology is the same as in all other countries where we established this program. The goats enhance the chances for these poor families to become self-supported.
সংসার উন্নতি করব মানে টাকা বাড়াবো এই টাকা আমরা কোনো ইয়েতে ব্যয় করব না সঞ্চয় করব এই টাকা কোনো ক্ষতি করব না সংসারের জন্য খাওয়াবো না মানে লেখাপড়া শেখাবো বাচ্চাদেরকে বড় যেন চাকরিজীবী হয় সেই ধরনের চিন্তা ভাবনা আছে লেখাপড়া শেখাবো বাচ্চাদেরকে এই জন্য এটাই আশা করছি বা ছাগল নিয়ে
När man besöker den här byn Hotapara så är det många saker som far genom mitt huvud. En av dem är hur vackert det är och att barn är barn var de än är. Den andra är fattigdom, hur orättvist det är. Att inte alla barn kan få gå i skola. Att inte alla får möjlighet till utbildning som kan lyfta dem ut ur fattigdomen. Jag har fått mött ett par barn som går i skola här tack vare Barnmissionens arbete. Men min önskan är att alla barnen i den här byn skulle få den möjligheten. Och för det krävs det resurser och tillsammans kan vi skapa dem.
A newborn fights for its life in a hospital in the city of Lutsk, Ukraine. The staff at the neonatal intensive care do everything in their power to save the small ones, with worrying parents at constant watch at their beds. But federal funding is not enough, and the life of this child would have been lost if it weren't for the help coming in from outside. A great deal of the cost for the neonatal unit's equipment, medicine, clothing, and even toys come from the Scandinavian donors of the Children's Mission. The happy children at our school camp in Dubechno are a cheerful contrast to a land where corruption has bereft an entire generation of their hopes for the future. But we spread joy, and we make a difference, as always, in a very concrete way.
1991 kom jag första gången till Ukraina och det har nästan blivit 200 resor hit sedan dess. Idag är Barnmissionen en av Ukrainas största biståndsorganisationer och hjälper upp till 300 000 människor om året. För att kunna göra detta så samarbetar vi med 300 olika organisationer. En av dem är Räddningsverket i Ukraina som har fått hjälp av svenska försvarsmakten via Barnmissionen så vi har kunnat ta hit militärtält och de använder vi bland annat som nu till att människor kan komma in och värma sig på vintern. Vi kan laga mat till dem och vi kan ta med oss matpaket och dela ut som de får med sig hem.
Before its independence, Ukraine was called the breadbasket of the Soviet Union. Today, many people, though working, cannot support themselves, and it's even worse for those who become sick or unemployed. That's why several of the churches we collaborate with have relief programs for the families that are worst off. One of them is the Demarchuks, with their son Vitaly, who until recently suffered from a brain tumor.
Ця допомога дуже багато що значить. Вона нас і вділа, і взула, і дитину мені врятували. Якби не ця місія, не було б моєї дитини б зараз зі мною.
Ой, як гарно тобі свята.
Det här är hjärtat av Barnmissionens verksamhet. Precis som här är massor av snö just nu så är här massor av barn på sommaren. Men det är inte bara på sommaren det pågår verksamhet på vårt barnläger. Även nu på vintern. Nu har vi startat vårt nya program No Corruption Generation där vi fostrar en ung generation och tar ställning mot korruption som är det största problemet i Ukraina.
At the habilitation facility in Dachny, we take care of children with a variety of disabilities. Here, they receive professional treatment and stimulation. On the shelf we see toys from Brio in Osby, Sweden. Much of the support for Dachny comes from the Pentecostal church in Osby. The children at Dachny get good, nutritious food. And also here, we've introduced the no corruption generation concept, in this case, in the form of theater. The mission is working closely with the regional hospital in Lutsk, where kids with serious conditions are taken. But not only do we offer help economically, but also spiritually, both for the children and their parents. In Scandinavia, the most well-known case of the mission's work throughout the years is probably Ira Chevchuk. Already when Ira was an infant, we brought her to Sweden for an operation on a life-threatening tumor. Several operations later, she is today a young woman with her whole life in front of her.
Now I live in Lutsk. I have a boyfriend. In the future, I can be a teacher. Thanks to Scandinavian Children's Mission, I have a normal life.
Many of society's outcasts are, as usual, to be found in prison. A cold, brutal world where the visits from the mission are very appreciated. In collaboration with local churches, we work in some of the toughest correctional facilities in the country, and also here at the juvenile prison in Dubno. The city of Lutsk shows a certain degree of wear and tear with obvious traces of the Soviet times. Since the fall of the Iron Curtain, life has become so hard in Ukraine that the population here is decreasing more rapidly than anywhere else in the world. The social needs are dire, and the Children's Mission cooperates with local authorities at a help center where we offer free meals. It is also possible for the poor to try out clothes from our relief shipments under dignified circumstances.
Я мама дитини-інваліда, який народився з вадами недержання мочі і кала. Я звернулася в місію, в якій мені дуже допомогли. Допомогли памперсами, одягом. І я хотіла би, щоб така місія не закінчувалася і більше давали діткам допомоги.
Every single year, the Children's Mission and our partners reach close to 300,000 people in Ukraine in need of help. That's why we decided to build new warehouses and a modern office in Lavriv village. It is more cost-effective to handle hundreds of tons of humanitarian aid shipments out of our own facilities. But the mission leader's vision for the future is not just about relief work.
All these 20 years, we were treated just problem, not roots of the problem. We even not come to this. And when we were discussing the situation, we all agreed that the problem for our country is corruption. So we started projects here, No Corrupted Generation. And we want to teach kids to have another life. We want to teach them not to feed corruption, because if you invest in children, you invest in future.